Welcome to A Girl, a Guy, and a Buffy podcast, Small Bites edition. I'm your co-host, Kate Balzer.
And I'm Charles Swint. So our small bites episodes are discussions we had in the main episode that didn't quite fit the overall conversation, but we still wanted to share with you all.
We hope you enjoy these tasty conversational bites. We promise, no angry puppy scars from listening.
So, sorry, I don't know what that was.
We're off to a good start.
I don't know what I was trying to do. Yeah, my voice just did that weird thing.
Oh, Charles, are you going through second puberty?
That might be it. I don't know what that was. Is that a noise found in nature? I don't think it is. The burden of power. Or actually, more specifically, the burden of potential power.
Right. So in the main episode, we really talked about the power that the Slayers have and how they use it and what it all means. But there are a couple of characters that have the potential for power. It's not about somebody who doesn't have power like Xander, but it's not been activated yet. So really, we're kind of focusing on Dawn and her keenness because we sort of go all over the place. It's like it's an inactive thing that can just be done to her, but then later in the comics it becomes an activated power. And then obviously the potentials in season 7, the fact that there's power within, but until another Slayer dies, it won't be activated until they change the game.
Yeah.
Of course, that's in Chosen.
And the weight of all of that, what does that mean for...
Right. Yeah. Yeah, so Dawn's an interesting case because not only does she have this potential power in her and what that could mean, and there's very little known about it because, the monks who made her that way are all dead, and they certainly didn't leave an instruction booklet behind.
Oh, that would have been so helpful.
To help her. Yeah, it would have. But then she also, like Xander, is around all of these powerful people, and her sister, she exists because of who her sister is. So that's another part of, I think, her burden in this with the potential for her power and living in this supernatural world. What it all means and who she is so driven by who her sister is. And, the weight of all that on her as well. Like, no wonder she's a bratty teenager to the nth degree in seasons 5 and 6. Wouldn't you be?
Well,
you would be normally, and then you have all that drama.
Yeah, and then, I guess it's that sort of combination of I want to emulate my big sister, I want to be like her, but also she treats me like a child.
Yeah.
Like even more so. And then when she finds out, then it gets even amplified even more. I think Buffy tries to find a good way to make that, to balance that and to make Dawn's life as normal as possible, just because she understands the weight of what that means, because she doesn't know anything.
Right. Almost to the detriment of Dawn.
Yeah.
Because she's overprotective in a way that's not helpful to Dawn.
Right.
Both as just her younger sister already enmeshed in the supernatural world, but also as the key. They definitely should have been digging into more what that means for Dawn to be the key.
Yeah.
Even in season 5, as they were, trying to figure out how to stop Glory, to me and I know they were researching it, but I don't feel like they took on the, what does it mean that the key is a human now element of the research.
Yeah. And I think, Buffy does tell Giles, she needs real answers. She needs to know where she came from.
That's true. That's
that
true.
Conversation does come up.
I forgot about that.
But she never really does anything about it until after Dawn finds out about it, as opposed to sort of letting her in on the research and being a part of it. It is her body. It is it's her body. It's her choice. She should have been given the choice to be a part of that research, to understand what it means, regardless. Because yes, she is your kid sister, but she's still not she's still a mystical entity.
Right. She's also her own being.
Yeah.
That, at 14 certainly has a lot more agency than if she'd been a toddler.
Right.
When she was given to them. Yeah, I know. I totally agree. And also, you can't tell me, why weren't you looking up spells to help, understand or reveal what is the key?
Right.
Or what is the key's power? like that could have been a way like Tara and Willow could have helped more, I think, in season 5.
Yeah. I
Or
mean,
Giles too, and Anya, because they both have, the knowledge and the background.
I wonder if it was because like the key is so old that there is no magics around, you
Oh,
know?
it could, because I mean they say that about Glory. Like that's what Tara brings up is maybe there's no name because she's so old. It was never written down. It was predated written language.
Right. And the key came before Glory, so
Right. That
chances
actually makes a lot of sense.
chances are maybe there wasn't anything about it. But you would still think that they would try to come up with some sort of spell or some sort of something to protect Dawn more, like some sort
Yeah.
of protection spell, some sort of something or other. And for Dawn, I can't imagine, the more we talk about it and the more, because at first I honestly did not like Dawn. I will
Yeah.
honestly say I really didn't. I think it was just like first time watcher shock that you're
Right.
like, who is this person? What is she doing here? What's going on? I don't get this. And then having to like trust the process and be like, oh, there's going to be a good payoff here at some
Yeah.
point. But like looking at it from Dawn's point of view of like really understanding like you think that you are this person and then you find out later on, it's kind of like Battlestar Galactica and finding out that you're like a Cylon all of a sudden, and then you're
Oh
like,
my
I
God, that's
thought
a
I was
great
human,
comparison.
and now I'm a Cylon. What's going on here? Like it would mess up your head, and I think the potential of not knowing what your power, knowing that you have power, but
Yeah.
not knowing what that power is, has got to be a mind trip. Because she says, "Am I good? Am I evil?" Like and again, she starts dissecting herself,
Yeah.
like both like mentally and also physically. She starts cutting herself.
Yeah, and I mean that's a good point about like where she asked the question, am I good? Am I bad? That feels very like, oh, I can tell you're Buffy's sister or that you're made from Buffy. Because I feel like that's the kind of thing Buffy would feel about it. Like
Hmm.
she takes on those emotional burdens so deeply, like that sense of guilt and that the weight of the world that she has on her. And I think Dawn is really doing in that moment because she feels like people are getting hurt because of her, but it's not. It's because of Glory. Like she has no fault in anything that happens.
Right.
Other than her own actions that she takes, like running away,
Sure. Yeah.
that kind of stuff, where she might get caught by Glory. But again, you can understand why she does that because she's 4 months old and yet 14 at the same time.
Right.
Again, like you said, that's a mind trip. It's like you've only been technically in existence in a human form for a few months, and yet you have the memories of 14 years and being part of this family and living in this town and being a part of these people's lives. I mean, honestly, when you think about it in that way and you really like break down all the things that she goes through, Dawn is like an incredibly strong character
Yeah.
and a strong human. Like she really, puts up with a lot and manages, I think, to stay more sane than you might expect somebody to.
Yeah, she really could have gone off the deep end with a lot of
Yeah.
those things. And even like, and there is and I really do appreciate that I mean, Dawn gets a little bit lost in season 6 as a character, but
Yeah.
there are things about her that you can see that she really is growing up. Like even the whole thing of Buffy coming back and her taking care of Buffy, like right when she's coming back, and then also kind of holding the other Scoobies to task about why didn't you tell me you were
Yeah.
doing this? Like, what's going on here? There's something really that I would agree with you, and it's great that she really is one of the stronger characters
Mm.
based on everything that she has to go through, and the fact that she doesn't turn evil. She doesn't kill anybody. I mean, she steals some things, but
Well, that's like normal teen
that's
behavior
normal teenage behavior. I
when
mean,
you're going through all this stuff she's
yeah,
gone through.
yeah, I can
Let's,
excuse that.
well, and we could talk about your theft period.
Right. I think the statute of limitations is up on that crime, I hope.
Probably on your
On my
cutlery
cutlery.
theft. We won't say where.
On my reign of cutlery thievery.
Yes,
Um,
dear listeners, Charles went through this weird thing in high school where he decided to start stealing cutlery from
I don't
places. So
don't know why.
actually I do remember because it started on a school trip. I won't say to where because that will give
Well,
some people too much information.
it started before that, actually.
Oh, it did?
It did.
I just thought it was that trip.
It was started out of necessity, is what happened the first time. And then afterwards, I was just doing it for the thrill of it all.
Oh my
I was
God.
just doing it for the bit.
Oh.
So I too have the potential for power, the potential to be an evil thief and a scoundrel, but I've
Yeah,
changed my
he
evil
could really
ways.
relate to Dawn in season 6.
I really, really could. I've changed my evil ways though. So now I only steal for good.
Well, and then on top of her keenness, we obviously get in season 7 and potential the thought that she might be a Slayer, which is it was a great idea for the episode. I mean, because she's made of Buffy, it makes so much sense
Yeah.
that she could also be a potential. But then the way they make the twist on it and the way Dawn steps up and hands over that role and responsibility to Amanda and helps Amanda embrace it is like by far one of my favorite Dawn moments.
It's actually, and I think that's one of my favorite episodes in season 7.
Yeah.
And there aren't, well, I don't know, season 7. I do like season 7, but I think like when we're talking about episodes, I think that one is one of my favorites because of that moment, like watching Dawn go through that entire arc of could I potentially be a Slayer? Oh my goodness, yes, yeah, that makes sense. The blood, her blood is my blood. That would make sense. And it's like, yeah, I never understood that. I do like that they sort of comment on, does that make sense really? It's Dawn's blood.
It seems to me if she was made from Buffy, she should be a clone. So I'm like, where's the other
Right.
half of the DNA?
Yeah. So, but yeah, I really like that. And then, of course, and then there's like just the very like symbolic thing of Dawn handing over the staff to Amanda to like pass on that power
Right.
and like telling her this is this is yours. This is like
And
this is something that you have to do and only you can do it. I will be here to back you up, but this is your fight.
right. And you can do it
Yeah.
because you have it in you.
Yeah. And she does. And the fact that Amanda just takes everybody awesome.
I know. I love Amanda.
Yeah.
I love that she's this like gangly, nerdy band girl, but she also has like this really like badass inside of her who like wants to take down the bullies.
Right. Oh, she's so great. We love Amanda.
And she was awesome. Yeah, so I think, there is something to these characters that have the potential power in them. And that has its own weight,
Hmm.
just like the weight that characters that have power and have to, learn how to use it responsibly, or we can see what happens when it gets, okay, words fail, when it gets, out of control, like with Faith and Willow, for example.
Yeah. And I will say, like, for all the flaws of like having the potentials or whatever, and whether you like them or you don't like them, whatever, there is something really interesting when we're looking at like the burden of the potential power.
Yeah.
The thing that you do get to see with having all those potentials there is to see what the reactions is and how different people deal with the idea that I may be thrust into a position of power. Some
Hmm.
people are excited about it and step up to the plate and are like ready to take on the challenge, maybe a little bit too much so, Kennedy. Some people run away. Some people feign confidence, but then really
Yeah.
crumble and run away. Annabelle, like
Yeah.
there's so much. I mean, and then some people are just flat out scared and dip out. Chloe, I mean, there's so many ways to handle that burden and to like once and so it would it really is interesting to be like, how are these Slayers? Because we don't know, like Buffy didn't know she was going to become a Slayer. That was nothing there. So she
Right.
never, like, what does that weight feel like? Especially for someone like Kendra,
Hmm.
who you know, was born and they were like, here you go, because she's a potential racer, to have that kind of, to be walking around like a ticking time bomb, basically, to be like, any day now, my whole world can change and I won't know when that's going to happen.
Yeah.
That's got to be terrifying on some level.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's both probably terrifying and then relief and disappointing if it does or doesn't happen.
Right.
It's like, yeah, you're for those that know, yeah, you must be somewhat on this like knife's edge, whether that's because you don't want it to happen and you fear it, or because you're dying for it to happen and you do want to be called and step up to the plate. Yeah, I mean that's another screw with your mind kind of
Yeah.
burden.
And then on
Yeah.
the other side of all of this, like what happens to all that untapped potential power?
Mhm.
Like, if you've been a potential that has been trained and
Right.
you're going through all this training to possibly become a Slayer, like what happens to them after
Yeah.
that? Like
I'm
yeah,
Well, I was gonna say I'm curious if the Watchers Council turns them into Watchers
maybe.
or
Who
gives them
knows?
that opportunity, or if they don't want them at all a part of it because they feel like they might be too close if they do get a Slayer and
I don't know.
side too much with their Slayer and not in the council's teachings. I
Hmm.
suppose it depends on the person and
Yeah.
their thinking as well. I mean, there's certainly fan theories that former potentials that age out become Watchers. I think
Or
it's a
grocers. Maybe they just become, I don't know.
yeah. Yeah. You know what's interesting though? I do feel like for the examples we're given, it does seem like the girls who are found by the council and trained are more accepting of that burden
Mm,
to even wanting it versus those who didn't know. It doesn't mean they don't end up stepping up in the end. And sometimes the differences are slight, and sometimes the differences between how they treat this potential power are great. But it does feel like those who have the knowledge, and maybe because they've had the chance to get used to it and understand it and,
yeah.
have been received training. I mean, that would make sense to me. I don't think it's, I think it's a major part of the reason why. But it just seems like with Kendra and Kennedy, and I know Annabelle freaks out, but I think, partly you also have to wonder if freaking out isn't because like you do know what's coming and you don't have the power yet. You only
Right.
have maybe a fraction of it somewhere in you, but it hasn't really been activated. But then who are the other two girls who come with her? That shows I can oh well,
Yeah.
Kennedy was one of them. It was
Kennedy,
Kennedy
yeah,
and
Kennedy,
Annabelle.
Annabelle, and
I forget who the third one is.
Molly.
Molly, yes.
Molly.
But they're much more accepting of what's going on.
Yeah, it's
I mean, and
interesting.
so is Kendra, but I mean, Kendra has a like cultural component to hers as well.
Yeah, like her, yeah. And hers was so young, and there's no really indication of like at what age these potentials were picked up by their watchers or whatever. Like there's no telling
True.
how long they had been training because it feels like very if it feels like very early days for them though, in terms of that, because I don't know, I get the sense that like someone like Annabelle, who was like, okay, I've accepted that this is something that is a potential for me to do, and so I'm going to, I'm going to really study and I'm going to really like work hard and practice and do all the things that they tell me to do. But the reality of it, when she really saw the reality of it, I think that just kind of freaked her out. Vi says that she's never seen a real vampire and she's only seen like, the blurry image of one shown by her watchers. So like, how are they actually training them for a true battle? I guess they're just giving them lore and mythos and maybe talking about supernatural stuff and maybe giving them some physical training. I don't know. I don't know what that
I
looks
would
like
think
for
they would
them.
definitely be giving them physical training. I think it's all of that, but I think there probably is a lot of studying. And again, you're like you said, it depends on how long they've been with their watcher and how when they were found by their watcher or by the Watchers Council. Yeah, I feel like Kennedy, Molly, and Annabelle had been with their watchers for a while. Like I
Mhm.
don't think it'd been like in the last few months, especially when Kennedy said she's probably aged out, being one of the oldest at 19.
Yeah.
Yeah, she also seemed, I feel like, to have be like more into it. So maybe, and then had been, trained for a while. And Annabelle felt like to me, like she was one of those, like she's, kind of a rule follower, even if she really didn't want this. She was
Yeah.
like, I listen to my watcher, I do what he says. Like I felt like she was always repeating the party line.
Yeah.
And like, oh, this is the real Slayer, and we have to follow and listen to her. But like in the inside, she was like, get me the F out of here.
Right. I don't want to do that. I
God,
really
I don't
don't.
want to do this.
I don't want to be here.
Yeah, if Buffy dies, don't let me be the next one, even though it's not because, when Buffy dies, it would be because when Faith dies. But
Right.
they don't really talk about that all
They
that much.
really don't.
Anyway,
They really don't make that clear, and it's really annoying.
no.
That they keep saying that if Buffy dies, then one of them
Right.
will be activated. And it's like, stop saying that because that's not true.
We already know
We
there is
already
no third
know.
Slayer.
And we already know that the Slayer line was broken because Buffy lives again. It's not that she's dead, it's that she lives again, that this is all happening. So why are you and there was no other Slayer called when she died then, so why do we keep saying that? The line
Yeah.
falls through faith. Period. End of story. No more discussion, people.
We needed Andrew to put it up on the whiteboard
I know. Jeez.
that he uses in his video in Storyteller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I think that was actually really cool explorations in the series. I wish there had been kind of time more to delve into
Mhm.
that burden of the potential power, particularly with Dawn, which obviously is, I said, they really do get into it in the comics, and she ends up actually being able to activate her keenness and, travel through portals and whatnot. I always wonder too, even though it wasn't stated, Dawn picks up languages pretty damn quick. Like suddenly she's this
Yeah.
like demon researcher. And I'm like, I don't know. To me, that's just say it's her keenness. Like there's something in her universality of like the key power that allows her to not only like open portals and travel between worlds eventually. That makes sense. Like it would open up her ability to like know languages in order to do that and travel like that. I could see that being a part of the keenness. Like I wish they had just said it because all of a sudden you're like, why is Dawn so good at demon language?
Why can she speak Sumerian all of a sudden?
Yeah.
I mean, and then she was like, "Oh, there's this thing," and Willis like, "There's a translation of that." She was like, "There's a translation of it." Never mind.
Yeah.
Like,
But yeah, I mean, I love that Dawn like developed her own skills and abilities and like was able to contribute to the group more. I thought that was like a great way to grow her character. But yeah, I mean, in the back of my mind, I was always like, how did she get this? So I
she
was like,
leveled
my
up.
head canon is it's her keenness. I was like, we're gonna go with that.
She leveled up. That's
Yeah, exactly. So any final thoughts on the burden of potential power?
I think Buffy does a really good job of sort of talking about the burden of power, but
Hmm.
we've only really get small glimpses of like what it means to have power and to wield it, the potential for power and
Yeah,
what that looks like. I mean, again, that's not what the show is really about so much, but I am glad that
right.
we got a glimpse of it. And I think if you look at what's going on with the potentials and you look at what's
Hmm.
going on with Dawn, you can have a lot more sympathy and understanding for those characters and think about like, look at who these people in comparison to what they're actually having to face versus what Buffy is facing or what,
Hmm.
the others are facing.
Yeah, it's an interesting like compare and contrast element to the series, particularly in that season 7, because you really have it both, like you said, with Dawn and the potential Slayers. Yeah, and just in general, I think for me, all of that read better when I watched the season the first time, like through DVDs on my own schedule. Like seemed like back then there was a lot of breaks. And so
Hmm.
there felt like a lot of distance. And I think that's sometimes why particularly people like us who watched the series when it was airing live, or maybe they caught it in like reruns on, FX. So again, you're only able to watch like an episode at a time. Season 7 at first can feel very draggy. And you're like, where are we going with this? What's all this about? But when you're able to watch it at your own pace and maybe binge a bunch of episodes at once, it really tightens up as a season. And I think this sort of element of that comparison between having the power and the burden of that versus maybe having the power and the burden of that and it could become activated or it could not become activated becomes more evident in that being able to watch it all at once. And I think it makes that season 7 more interesting than you think it is the first time around, at least.
You had that pressure cooker element
Yeah, yeah,
of all of that happening right there, right, all in the same time. Because a lot of
right,
season 7 happens like days, like episodes
correct.
are like literally the next day.
Right, which is
Or
not usual for the series.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we usually there was like minimum usually it was like at least a week had passed. Sometimes you'd start the next day, but not all
yeah,
that often compared to season 7. Yeah, it's
yeah.
true.
So
Awesome.
Right. Well, we will see you all next time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Small Bites. Let us know your thoughts about the episode by leaving a review or rating us wherever you listen to your podcast.
You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at A Buffy Podcast and email us at abuffypodcast@gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening. Bye.
Bye.